So day 16, January Prayer Fasting. Now we're in Leviticus 16 summary. Now this has so much stuff. It's all about the Day of Atonement, which was a big day in the Jewish culture. It was like the 10th month. What is it? The 7th month on the 10th day. And this is about, because remember, the people had to make atonement, that they were born guilty and stuff like that. So all these sacrifices, it was emphasizing the fact that before the high priest would make atonement, they had to first get atonement for themselves and their household before they could make atonement for the people. It was emphasizing by himself, because normally there'll be many priests in the temple, loads of people come in doing sacrifice, but for this Day of Atonement, no one had to work. Only by himself, the high priest or Aaron now would be doing everything by himself. That was a picture of later on that Jesus by himself, he would make atonement for us. And the word atonement then was kippah, and that kippah was about covering up, because they had like the mercy seat that represent God coming down and be able to see, looking down, because on the mercy seat you had like the Ark of the Covenant and the things inside it that represent sin and things like that. And then there was high priest had to sprinkle the blood and sprinkle the stuff. So it's like covering up over the sins of the people. So this was atonement. Whereas New Testament atonement is the fact that it's not just covered up, but it's also removed and gone completely. And it wasn't temporary, like the other one was temporary. Whereas New Covenant, we have, through Jesus, we have access, continuous access to him. And that brought up a reason as well why the other people killed. Aaron's two sons were killed. Like, you can't just go to the tabernacle or go to God and try to bring God down as you see, please. You can only go to God through invitation. So this was the point. So there was rules and ways to go to God, is what God was showing them in this chapter, because you had to go there for invitation. And in the New Testament now, it's lucky we still have to go by invitation, but because through God has invited us through Jesus, that we have continuous access. The other running themes on this chapter was they had to, says, afflict their souls. So they will see that as sacrificing, fasting rather. And then Jews now, they do other stuff. They might be not sacrificing animals that were told to do then. Some do now chickens and other stuff. Some do other things, lashes and other stuff. Some decide that the word can mean this or that. But in the actual chapter, we got other emphasis on telling Aaron what to do in the holy place. The same is true today. We talked about Jesus' work on our behalf, standing access to God. We talked about God begins instruction of the Day of Atonement. It was the 7th month or the 10th day of the month. Do no work, all afflict your souls, it says. There's emphasis in the fact that man is a sinner and has no right of access unless he approaches through sacrifice. He was not to dress. So yeah, the high priest was not to dress in priestly garments. He was dressing more lower. It was a humiliating day. It was a humble day. It was a day of atonement, remembering people are man and sinful, basically. So dressing simple. Emphasis was on that chapter that Aaron and every high priest after him was to do it by themselves. He talked about, it was because this was doing it by himself. He said it was a preview of that Jesus Christ will come and do things by himself. Then Aaron shall cast lots. So there was 2 goats. So 2 goats then. One goat they'll cast out, whether the goat would be accepted by the Lord, and the other goat for the people. The first goat was a picture of how atonement is granted. Sins are forgiven, but punishment has been put on an innocent party. The second goat, the scapegoat, was a picture of the effect of atonement. The penalty of our sins is cast far away, never to return. So the high priest or the person will take the goat out of the community, walk 10 miles, and then release the goat, and there's a picture of sin being removed from the community. Although later on there was custom where they were, why did God actually accept the goat? So they'll mark the goat and see if it had a white, if it had some red thing on it, and later on if it turned white, they will think God accepted it. And later on in Jewish culture, that's why some people believed when Jesus died and came out in white garments, they saw that as all the sacrifice has been accepted. Now this is atonement, full atonement, as well as other reasons. And then we talked about kappa means to cover up. Sin was not removed, but covered over by the sacrificial blood. But New Testament covenant, we talked about sin is not merely covered, but is removed, taken away. So there's no barrier between God and man any longer.